We're we're going to be talking about integration and interference, and this is really one of our Daisha and I, who I'll introduce you to in a minute. She and I thought, well, we would try these little like just 20-minute um, informational pieces to see like if people wanted them to just get some more clarification on some issues. So we're going to be talking about interference and integration. So my name is Kate, and I'm the executive director of DI Colorado. And Daisha is with us today, and Daisha is my training director. And Daisha is also a team manager of 11 teams. She's team managed for 10 years. And she is not an educator, she's a project manager by trade. And she is amazing that she brings all these kiddos into her home. And she is a DI pro. Do you want to say anything else about yourself, Daisha?
Oh, thanks, Kate. I'm excited to be here tonight.
So, we're going to be talking both about interference and integration and how they apply to your challenges. We're going to define what interference is, what it isn't. We're going to do some question and answers. We're going to play a little game about what some scenarios for interference. Then we're going to define what integration is, and then we're going to talk about some examples of integration. And we can talk about this too as terms as how it applies to um, the improv challenge, which we don't have any pictures of, but we can talk about how integration actually applies. And then how to guide your students to some higher levels of integration. Sound good? If you guys want to chime in at any time with questions, that's perfectly cool. Okay. Um, so this is known in DI
We're not
parlance.
seeing the presentation.
You're not. My screen is paused, it
It
says.
just says loading.
Yeah, I see that as well. Yeah.
It says my screen is paused. I've never seen that before. Hold on. Let me unshare. Wow. Let me see that I can see it. Okay, share. What are you guys seeing?
Click to exit full screen.
Good. Now, is it saying loading?
Ah, there we go.
Now do you see? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I go to the slideshow mode, oh, now it says it's paused. There you,
Yeah, and we see loading again.
okay. Well, interesting. Now, do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're gonna then just work from from the slide deck
Beautiful.
because that's what we're gonna do because we're problem solvers. All right. So this is called the interference triangle. And what it means is that there's three different parts to a challenge. There are the challenge itself and the rules, what's kind of the written word, the skills that kiddos need to have to complete the challenge. And then there is the solution, and that's what the kids decide and use to create their solution. So team managers can help with the skills and the challenge and rules. So you guys are allowed to teach the kids for our early learning person, like teach the kids how to cut duct tape, how to write a story, um, and then for you older kids, what are the rules? What can and can't they do? You are 100% allowed to do all of that. Where you can't come into the play is at the top of the triangle, and that's when the kids are deciding on their solution, what their improv elements are going to be, how their characters are going to go, all those creative elements. You guys stay away from. So you can do the bottom, not the top. Another way to look at this, Stacia, do you want to take this one so we can?
Yeah. So my camera keeps turning off. It's the craziest thing. There, I'm back. Okay. So I think about this that I'm allowed to guide, mentor, teach, and plan. But I don't get to do, create, or interpret rules for them. And so I think that for me has been like the most helpful thing I've taken from training over the years. And I think the one people get mostly confused about is that last one on here, the plan. You can plan for the team. You can give them deadlines. You can give them guidance on what you want them to do today. It's just within that, you can't create, interpret, or do things for them.
Do you guys have any questions on that?
No, no, not here. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So when you are especially in the last week of January and into February, when you are really struggling with your kids to get their solution complete, you are in the complete realm of being an awesome team manager if you guys say, hey guys, you need your story done today. If it's not done today, what are we going to do? Because we're not going to have a story. We're not going to have any time to practice or whatever. That is 100% what you guys can do. And you can teach any skill necessary to complete a challenge. Oh, see, now it's not gonna, in my slideshow, it only showed one at a time. All right, so I'm gonna give you some questions. So a team manager, a team manager is in a hardware store and decides to purchase what they think the team members need for their solution. Is that interference or is that not interference? What do you guys think?
Aren't they supposed to tell us what to buy?
Exactly. Exactly. So definitely if you go in and you just decide, oh, they need this, and this, then that is interference. But if they give you a list, it's not interference. Another take on this is Dacia has a big supply closet full of all kinds of stuff. It's like going into your own little craft store when you walk into Dacia's house. So Dacia might go in and stock up on glue sticks and on paint and on like generally used supplies. That is not interference because she's not telling the kids that these are the things that that they have to use. She's just making sure that there's generic supplies available. That is not interference. Okay. Dacia, do you want to take the second one?
Yeah. So while bringing props in from the car, a parent accidentally breaks a piece. The team manager fixes the broken piece. Interference, yes or no?
Interference.
Yes, agreed.
And it's a hard one. I'll tell you, I do mandatory parent meetings with my parents every year before tournament, and I cover this in detail. Props are gonna break, I promise. And I make sure they know it's okay. We prepare the kids for it. Every team has a fix-it kit. Just make sure you cover that because if people see it at tournament, it can actually hurt the team, which I know no one is trying in this situation, right?
Okay. The team manager guides the team through an idea generation tool while the team is brainstorming. Is that interference or not?
No, it's not.
Why do you think it's not interference?
Um, it's yeah, that sounds more like a project management tool. You're just helping the team um, drive to a solution. You're not giving them any answers or solution.
Exactly.
Yep.
You're actually in this role, you're actually you're doing sort of the bottom part of the triangle, or you're also planning and mentoring and teaching, right? You're teaching kiddos how to do the idea generation. They don't know how to brainstorm or work together or know how to do the difference between brain writing and ABC brainstorming and all that. You're teaching them things on what to do. So, as long as you don't guide them to a particular solution, like you want them to be a mermaid, and as soon as the word mermaid comes up on the screen, you tell them to stop because you've got it, right? That would be interference. Or if you said, well, what about something that swims but is kind of human and reminds me of Ariel and Disney, that's interference when you're guiding them that way. But if you're guiding them like, hey guys, we're going to do this ABC brainstorming tool, here's how the tool works, we can guide through that. Okay, Deja.
The team manager helps the team to understand the rules of the challenge. Interference or not?
Not.
Yep. And I think really spending time on this is really important, right? Making sure the kids understand it, highlighting the do's and don'ts, cans and can'ts. It's really part of your core job.
Okay. Team managers can teach their team tips and tricks during IC practice. Interference?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Instant Challenge is the destination imagination gift to team managers. You can teach any skill during Instant Challenge practice. So if your kids are improvers and their acting skills are not that great, you can give them a performance challenge, and then you can walk them through how do you block something, how do you interact with people, how do you create interest with your bodies. You can do all that in Instant Challenge, and then you hope that they're going to extrapolate that learning to the next level. So if you are just needing to get your hands on something, give them a building challenge, and you can build it for them, and just tell them why you did what you did. If you really need to get that, or if you know a parent that's biting at the bit, Instant Challenge is a great place to put them.
During the tournament, the parents bring all of the props to the launch line in the performance area. Interference? Yes or no?
The team is supposed to do the staging, not the parents.
So we can get them all the way to that launch line, right? Now, the kids, you can't pick the order, try to figure out the best way to stage it in there, but we can absolutely help them get their props to that launch line. I work with my kids on, we have set parents who help, and those parents know what they're picking up, and the kids help guide them there. But we can help them get all the way there. They won't consider that interference. Once they're at that launch line, though, from that point on, it's up to the kids. When they're done, parents can and should help get the props off so the next team can go.
Okay. That's our 10-minute visitation on interference. Does anybody have any questions or concerns that they have or have experienced about interference and what it is and what it isn't?
I actually do.
Great.
So here's where my problem is for improv. And I ran into it last year and wasn't sure if I was interfering or not. But improv, obviously, you give them different scenarios constantly. And so I'm constantly pulling things off the internet. I'm constantly trying to make up. So, like this year, I have to make up all these seekers and I have to make up all these detours. Is it interfering when I give them feedback on those elements when they are doing their different run-throughs?
Yes.
Okay.
It is not interference for you to get them any of the scenarios or whatever, but I would have assigned one of your kids to do that too. I mean, your kids are middle and high school, right?
Yes.
I think it would be fun for them to sort of do that, but no. So if you're giving feedback on a performance,
because I'm not giving feedback on like the characters, but like whether or not they met the challenge. Like, I gave this scenario, you didn't meet it.
Right. That is interference because you're guiding them on their creative decisions.
Okay, so I can't do that. Thank you.
Now, what you can do is you can say, oh, let's read the point value of whatever it is. I don't know that challenge on how the points, but let's say that you integrated the seeker into your performance, right?
Okay.
And you can have them self-score, And you can ask them, then prompt them with other questions. How do you think you could have used that character more? How did that character interact with everybody else you can ask them leading questions, but you can't say, oh, you didn't do that very well. This is what I would do. Because one is definitely guiding towards a creative solution, and one is just asking questions, and then they can choose or not choose to listen to you.
I feel like that's mostly what I've done. I just wanted to make sure that was okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Desha.
For people who don't have improv teams, right, the same advice holds. Having the kids walk through the score sheet and saying things like, show me where this is, help me understand where this is. It lets those kids look like, did I miss something? Like I have a tech team who just completely forgot about risk. And so we were going through the score sheet and I was like, talk to me about your risk. And they were like, my what? And so that's really a good way to help the kids find holes or to polish up things. And it's surprising when they self-score how they are really hard on themselves. They'll see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question on interference?
I do have a question, Kate. With our second graders, so it's early learning. They are writing their own script, but they are taking forever. Can I type what they say in my own computer? Like just listen to them and type it so that we can go a little faster, because we had it today. And I was trying to be patient, but it was like, okay, come on, yeah, just write. Doesn't matter. The spelling is not important. You just go. But is that interfering?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not interference because, again, you're not the creator of the idea. So for our littles, for really anybody, like I used to record what they said, or I would write it down. For sure, you can do that with the littles. Well, really, I mean, even with anybody that you're just trying to jot ideas down. Sometimes, like in brainstorming sessions, sometimes I like the team manager to be the person writing down all the ideas for the brainstorming, because then it's in one handwriting, and then no one's like remembering, oh, I wrote that one and that's mine, so I want to. But you can always write for your kids if you can't alter what they say.
Okay.
I had somebody else the other day. They said they ran their script through AI and was that to clean it up. And my response to this was, well, that is really interference because you ran it through ChatGPT to clean it up where they should have. Now, the amount of interference it is pretty tiny. But I would also say, don't worry about the grammar, the cleanliness of a script. No one is going to take that script and grade it. It should just be very organic and how people talk and how people act. So it doesn't matter if there's not a comma somewhere.
And another thing I do with my younger teams that don't type well is I let them do speech to type, right? So I use Macs, but on my Mac, my email, Word, most of my apps have a little I can talk into the keyboard thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I let them talk into it and then that typed for them. And that I have too many teams to type for all of them. And that really was hysterical to see what it thought they said, but it did help speed things up quite a bit.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, that will be helpful, this speech to text. I never thought about it. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Also, you're required, if you're performing in Spanish, correct?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Okay, you're required to submit an English script.
Yeah.
And you can type that. They don't have to do that.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Any other questions on interference before we move on? I always think I just keep those 4 words in my head: guide, mentor, teach, and plan. If I'm doing anything that influences the creative outcome, I'm interfering. Okay, integration. So I'm looking through all the DI stuff in the last couple of days to find what the DI definition of integration is. and it's literally nowhere, but it is appraised everywhere. It's appraised in Instant Challenge. It's talked about in improv. Improv integration is so key. Integration is key everywhere, but improv, almost the whole cohesiveness of the play is determined on integration. So I came up with this definition of when separate people, items, ideas, or elements are brought together for a whole. And I found this picture. This is a secondary level scientific team. And they actually placed second at global finals with this solution. So this isn't anything I'm expecting from any first year team or any non-senior level team. But you can see how their set piece is like everything in it ties together. So the team members are actually, I don't know if you can see, the team members are actually in the photo. So if I pump up this photo really big so you can see it better, because now I'm in this other dimension here. There's a team member in the tree. There's a team member in the vine, and there's a team member here in this purpley thingy. So they completely integrated their costuming into their whole scenery. So they brought their separateness of their costumes and their costume element and their set element, and created one whole. If the kiddos were standing apart, so just imagine if the kids were out, you would be missing part of the scenery. So a good way to tell if something's integrated is if you remove it, is there a hole? If there's a hole when you remove it, it's very well integrated. Does that make sense?
And so one of the ways I use to teach my kids about integration is Lego sets. When you get a Lego set and you dump the bag out, right, there's like all these individual pieces and you can't quite tell what they make, but as you put them together, they build like a whole set, right? And I think for my kids, we teach them, you're just trying to bring something together, right? You're connecting pieces in a way that they fit and they look good together. So I think it's just a matter of helping the kids understand that bringing all the pieces together makes it better.
So when you're talking about integration with your kids, there's some things that you can think about. Number one is the theme of your story or your solution. So if your theme is I don't know, a 50s diner, when you're thinking about every element of your performance, you should be thinking 50s diner, right? From every element. So what materials can you use to make that happen? So you might use particular paints that sort of invoke those sort of colors of a diner, as opposed to using completely different colors, like something that might be purple. I don't know. Words associated with the theme. You might use words like that are like very 50-ish, like I was just thinking of the fonts, like cool and I don't know, bang, I don't know, you know what I mean, words that are 1950s words, like hey Kit Kat, things in your speech that really help that theme come through. You might think of any other associations. You might think of associations with the 50s that are very stereotypical. You may think about them as jokes. You may think about it as music. You may think about it as types of cars. And all these things start to form sort of a mental image of what your team wants to portray out forward. So you want your props, costumes, and team choice elements to be a part of the performance, and they're not an afterthought. So for you guys that have costumes, you want to think about even if they're not scored, you want to think about the costumes as a part of that overall theme and how they're going to add to the overall effect.
And I think like a really big call out here is those team choice elements, right? Those TCEs, the kids get so excited to do like a thing, instruments, dance, sign language, like whatever it is. If it's just like randomly dropped into the story, they're leaving points on the table. I think it's important that they read that part of the score sheet where it's integrated into their performance, right? So if they're super into musical instruments, awesome. How will they integrate that into the performance so it doesn't feel like it was just randomly dropped in there?
One example I have of that is if you have someone on your team who's really good tumbler, and that person likes to do somersaults and standing on their head and all that stuff. If they're over on the side doing that while the play is going on the other side, that's not integrated. They might get points for craftsmanship or whatever, but they're not going to get integration points. However, if that person was if it was a Western theme and that person was dressed up as a tumbleweed and they did a series of cartwheels that opened the saloon door that propelled an action, well, now that's far more integrated. For our improv person on here, the biggest thing that happens with improv is you grab your improv element, and in this case, it's a barrier. I don't know, it's something. So let's just say you pick up something and it says the street is made of glue. Okay. A non-integrated solution would be, oh, I can't pick up my feet. The streets are made of glue. And then never mentioning those gluey streets ever again. But if you think, oh, the streets are made of glue, and everybody that's involved in the performance moves slower, has a hard time picking up their feet, maybe drops a pretend thing into the glue and tries to get it out, and that glue stays in scene after scene, that is a far more integrated element than if it's mentioned once. If you have, oh, the cat is sitting on your head. If you just say, oh, there's a cat on my head, not integrated. If you have the cat on your head and you try to put a hat on, or someone comes up to you and says, oh, I have some catnip for your cat that's on your head, or some funny interactions with your hair. All of that is far more integrated. So an element from improv isn't just said once and let go. It carries through the entire performance by everybody that interacts with that character. Okay?
I think I critiqued them a lot in warm-ups on that, but I didn't know what it was called, so I appreciate it.
Great. All right.
And we were preparing.
That's super. I know you just got your challenge very recently.
I did.
So the team on the with the yellow cart with the Amazon blazer on. So this team right here, they were in the Amazon jungle in last year's scientific challenge, and they just thought that was funny because they're fourth graders. And every single element they chose to decorate everything had an Amazon tie. So you can see they used Amazon packaging. She has an Amazon vest on. All of these smaller cardboard things are from Amazon packages, Amazon Smile, and they interlaced joke after joke after joke about confusing the Amazon with Amazon.com. And it was, and they didn't just do it twice. It literally was layered in every element of their performance, that joke about the Amazon and Amazon.com. So you can see the difference between this other pinball challenge, and they're just in t-shirts and jeans. Right? Like you can look at that pinball and you have no idea why those kids are there, right? So there's less integration. That doesn't mean it's a bad solution, by the way. It just means that they're going to score less on integration points. Again, this is that one team I was telling you about earlier. They were so highly integrated that they were doing something with a fairy tale, and they went to a used bookstore and they bought all these fairy tale books, and that's what they used to make all of these wings. Were they punched holes in the fairy tale book, and then they painted them with tea, and then put them on to make the flowers. So their theme of fairy tales perpetuated even that smallest element. Again, this is a very, very, very high level performing team, but the point is they thought about their play and what their story was, and they integrated it in every aspect. What do you guys think this play was about? Maybe
Is there like a police officer on the left picture? I'm trying to.
yeah, maybe let's see if I can do bigger for you.
Yep. I don't know if he's a police officer. What is that? Are they building like a robot or something on the right?
It's a robot.
Casino challenge.
Yeah.
Casino, exactly. It's a casino. And
I only got it because I've watched the videos, but I've seen the casino challenge, not particularly that one, but I can see it.
This was actually a pinball challenge. They had to move a pinball, but their story was taking place in a casino. And you can see every element has cards. This tube is all decorated with cards. They have cards on their costumes. And so they were really just going that extra mile to make sure that their pinball machine read about their story. Okay. And then this one, Dacia's gonna, this was a pirate ship. It was again a pinball machine. It was a pirate ship. Let me see if I can make it bigger. And the thing about this one that I'm going to say is it is super cool, right? They have this pirate ship and then this mast, but they're just their jeans and t-shirts. So how do you think that they could have made their whole performance more highly integrated?
Dressing up as pirates themselves.
Exactly.
Like an eye patch or yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know that they ran out of time because their pinball machine was so gigantic. And this is actually a picture taken at Global Finals. But, there's always ways to just think about it more. Think about how everything is done. All right. Dacia's going to talk about this photo, and that's someone's leg. This was also taken at Global Finals.
Yeah, so this team was doing the scientific challenge where they had a character who had to have an investigation that led to a finding, and they had to have an archaeological investigation that happened, and a puppet that was a character from the past. And it's hard to tell from this picture, but the puppet is Quetzalcoatl, and they found this tile, and you can see this is a pyramid that puppet's in, and the pyramid opened up on a hinge that they made, and the puppet would pop out from there. But basically, those tiles were a part of their archaeological finding. One of the pieces of tiles was found in their grandmother's house when they were putting her into retirement. And so when that tile touched the pyramid would open. So the entire story centered around the investigation that led to the finding that gods were real when Quetzalcoatl came to life. Hey, enough.
All right, so that is integration. So when you are talking about integration, you're talking about every element coming into a whole, whether it's your team choice element, whether it's your one of your improv elements, It could be your technical element. Like this puppet was a required element, but how they incorporated the theme of the gods and the Mayan culture into it was completely arbitrary on how they did that. And so they made sure that it was very thematically integrated to what Quetzalcoatl represented. They're not walking around in jeans. I can tell you that. Does anyone have any questions? Integration is such a weird concept. Like not weird, it's just mushy.
It's abstract, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
No questions.
Okay. Kira, David?
No questions here. Thank you.
Okay. I hope this was helpful. That is all. And as I said, these are just meant to be short little trainings just to for these kind of concepts as we're getting closer. You can level them up a little bit if you have the time and they follow your if they understand what it means and you can tell them what integration means, then they can start to really think about it.
Allora, non metti la faccia vicino a
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a nice
Thank you so
day.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.